Welcome to the podcast, Anu.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So let's get started by giving the listeners a little bit of background about yourself. I see in your LinkedIn profile two major enterprises you've been a part of in your career. Why don't you give us some of the highlights to date?
Sure, absolutely. So my role, I'm the global service line leader and solutions leader for Genpact. And what I do is I basically bring all our solutions, technology, data domain together to bring the outcomes. Now, Genpact has been, long-standing partner for several banks and financial institutions. Goes back a little bit into our history, Peter. We were
Sure.
born RG Capital. So the domain and really intense process expertise sits in our DNA. And we kind of brought in several different parts of data technology together. And now we are leading the path with experience, brilliant experience for our customers. G was, again, a big powerhouse where I really learned a lot of transformation and Six Sigma. So I was able to bring all that together in Genpact and to our clients.
All right. All right. So then so maybe we could just dig into your role a little bit there. Maybe you could explain like the types of organizations you're working with and what you actually do on a day-to-day.
Sure. So in my role, I work with banks, I work with fintechs, and I work across all of capital market clients. And look, as Genpact being a professional services firm, a lot of our clients come to us for run operate because that has been a core part of our business. More and more, Peter, what we are helping our clients do is design and architect. And what I mean by saying that is that we've been the powerhouse of their operating organizations. And now, as the banks are transforming with cloud technology, with data, and now with generative AI, it's actually now helping them, change their operating models or redesign some of the ways of working or help them identify what that seamless customer journey is going to look like from the time of origination to termination. So we really are embedded very deeply in helping really decide and define those outcomes so that we can take them onto that journey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's dig into generative AI, and maybe we could kick it off with just a question about how and when did you become interested in this?
It's very interesting. Look, generative AI, I think it got steam really, I would say, last year. I mean, we have always been dabbling in AI. AI has been with most organizations, as we were learning more on data. So we were learning more on creating models with AI. But I think really the big path breaking event which happened was like for anyone else with ChatGPT when really generative AI was in our hands. We were all trying to playing and experimenting with that. So no one could have imagined, Peter, I don't know what you thought, but no one could have imagined what 100, 200 million users in 2 months. That is really path breaking.
Yep.
And I think that has made it even more intriguing, not just for us as partners, but our clients and their clients as to how do you now take this technology and really make lives better for customers in every industry. I mean, I am more working with the banking and financial services, and really there, it's all about client experience. How do you completely change the experience? So that's what I'm seeing, and very, very fascinating experience, just to see how this technology is now starting to take shape and with so much of, piloting, experimenting, which has already started off.
Right, right. Well, we're going to get into financial services in just a bit. Before I do, though, when I was researching this topic for this podcast, I saw that you guys at Genpact are actually using generative AI today. You're training your employees with generative AI. Maybe explain what you're actually doing there and how that impacts the attraction and retainment of talent.
Sure. So, Peter, for us, look, employees are our jewel. They are our core assets, for the organization. And for years, we have been on the journey on really bringing our employees with us as we transform as an organization. And we see a very big correlation between learning and employee engagement. So more you involve the employees in their own path, in their own journey of learning, the better engaged they will be in making sure that they are a part of transforming not just yourselves as an organization, but your client organizations too. So we actually embarked on the journey of expertise for several years. It kind of came in, through the process of our heritage with GE, but more importantly, after being process experts, that's how we have always been. We invested a lot of our time and effort on being domain experts. So choosing specific areas of expertise and really hone in on that expertise. That gave us a little bit of a path entry into what we need today, which is all about data. And I think to get ready for generative AI and to get ready to become generative AI experts for our clients, we started on really preparing our employees from becoming process experts to data experts or data discoverers, so that while they understand the process of how a banking origination works, how do you unpeel that process and see and look very finely into what are some of the data elements behind that? How are those insights from the data connect together so that we could actually create and bring models and futuristic ideas to our clients, cultivate innovation. So we actually launched what is called a data bridge program. And that data bridge program helped almost 80,000 of our 100,000 plus employees to really get trained on becoming data experts. And that set path for us to become generative AI, experts, which is, of those 80,000, we launched a program to actually make them experts in AI models or experimenting with some of the AI tools and technology so that we can create some of those innovative assets for our clients. So that has really been our path, process to data and domain. And from there on, getting onto our AI journey. And that helped launch so many initiatives for our clients as well. And we call it a collective intelligence platform, Genome. It's a collective learning platform. So it has a very well-defined learning journey for our employees. If you want to cross-skill, cross-train, upskill from one function to the other, there is a very clear curated journey so that our employees can choose the path that they can go after. And we are sharing that with our clients as well through some of the solutions that we have brought using generative AI. One very interesting one I want to share with you is what we call as Guru GPT. It's actually documenting a lot of the operating procedures and being able to retrieve that information to train, on some of the transitions. So our customers love it as well.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about financial services. First question I want you to answer is, like, how can those of us in financial services here, how can we help unlock the potential of generative AI?
In financial services, I would say it's very early days, and rightly so, because look, banks are still very, very cautious about where and how they will apply generative AI through the value chain. A lot of experimentation is going on. I would say that a big amount of use cases that I've seen are mostly in areas where they can actually help their own employees get trained faster and better. Case in point examples are in contact center, customer service. How do you bring information for your customer service agent so that they are well prepared to answer a customer's question or a query? So there is a full summary of information available, scraping of data, so that the chat windows can be actually pulled together and summarized, and next best action can be recommended. So some of that is already it's already in the path of going on. I would also see a lot of personalization of experience. That's really the next stage of leveraging generative AI beyond just internal use cases, more external. is around personalization of experience on launching newer products. So you try to look at, various interaction points with the customer, use that data to be able to predict what is the next need of my customers, whether it's new products, new commercial solutions. And that's really another big area that we are seeing that financial services institutes are leveraging, or at least trying to experiment generative AI. We as Genpact have actually been able to very successfully launch generative AI in a very important part of the entire process to stop money laundering. So that has been a big effort which Genpact has launched in leveraging generative AI in anti-money laundering. And it's a very exciting journey that we are going in right now.
Can we just dig into that a little bit? I'm curious, because obviously, generative AI needs a massive data set, large language models. And maybe could you just explain, with anti-money laundering, obviously there's massive amounts of data that is out there on the bad guys and different transactions, and how's it working, that how are these large language models working in AML?
Sure. So let me actually back it up a little bit, kind of give you and for our audience a little bit of a background. So look, there are roughly about 1.5 trillion odd of illicit funds which transact across the globe. Okay. And guess what? Only 1.5% of that is ever caught, or actually, remediated. So this is a massive, massive issue for us in the industry. And banks are trying hard, they are trying to, get rid of the problem, but it is big, it is massive. And then they end up paying fines. I think in just last year alone 8 billion worth of fines were paid to the regulators because of lack of some of the remediation efforts. Now, what happens here is transactions which go to the system need to be caught early on, so that the bad actors do not go into the system for long, and are actually caught and remediated right away. Now, this whole process typically takes roughly about 15 to 30 days. So it's a very lengthy exercise, because typically what happens is you have to pull or get an alert from a transaction. That alert is looked at. It's called suspicious activity monitoring, or SAR. And in that, you have to match the keywords and see if there is anything suspicious going on, and then see whether it's a false positive or a false negative, and then remediate that by writing a narrative. So that's what it takes time in really completing that end-to-end process. Now, guess what? In that meantime, that same fraudster probably had gone through 5 different institutes and probably done money laundering there as well. So the need of the hour, or the biggest pain point, is how do you get to these bad actors fast? How do you contain these false positives? And 3, how do you make sure that these narratives and the search is done faster? So that's what we have been able to do using our proprietary platform called Risk Canvas. And we are probably the first in the world to actually work on AWS Bedrock in production. We're using their large language models. We've been able to accelerate, and in just a few seconds and a few minutes, this whole search process of keywords and writing those narratives, so that there's a full traceability as we go to the regulator. So it's been a phenomenal experience for us as we went through this. And we are very, very excited, because this really actually helps in some ways, solve a bigger issue in the industry, and very close to the purpose of our organization as well, which is making, the world a better place for people.
Right. Now, that's really interesting, that I could see how suddenly that will make, it takes a lot of the work out, and the time, more importantly, probably. So one of the things that I've seen you talk about is some of the fundamental principles that Genpact employs, when engaging with your banking partners. Maybe you could share some of those with the audience.
Sure. And I'm actually going to narrate a little bit of a story before I go there. And
Sure.
this is very, very important because, I hear a lot about, hey, generative AI can actually help us release productivity. And I just want to be little, I'm going to poke a little bit on that one because, I think we need to look beyond productivity. That's our experience. And I'm going to go back and think about, when electricity was introduced in our lives, and electricity was not meant to be and is not a cheaper steam engine. That's not what it is, right? What it did was it actually unlocked, it actually for us unlocked the whole source and use of energy. That's really what it did. And with that, what came in was a completely redesigned factory model, completely new ways of using electricity for newer products. And I think that's really how we need to think about generative AI. Don't think of it as productivity only. Think of how it can actually create and really make our products and solutions more innovative, generate larger outcomes, which we may not have even thought about. And our lessons and learnings have been that, look, generative AI cannot be and should not just be a point solution. It should actually be an end-to-end, should be orchestrated end-to-end within the value chain. That's number one. Number two, I think it's important to think about generative AI in combination with so many other initiatives which the banks and financial services institutes have, whether it's cloud migration or data orchestration or robotic process automation, because it's all really a very connected fiber. And I think if we connect the dots between everything, that's really what will enhance innovation and create a much bigger, larger value. The third big learning for us has been in data. And I smile and laugh, because I almost always think of data, because when people say, "Oh, I'm done with cleaning up data," but guess what? Data is almost like your teenager's room, which can never stay clean forever. You have to go back and clean it every time. So believe it or not, data can be a limiter as well as an accelerator. So it all depends on how you treat it, how you make sure it's available, how it's governed. So data is going to be a very, very big enabler in the journey in generative AI. And so is process. How well defined are the processes and the KPIs, so that what we are aiming for, it's very clear. And that's how we can link a lot of the outcomes that I was sharing with you earlier. And I think lastly, I would probably say is change management. That I can't, stress enough on how important it is, because that's really all about embracing the change and really partnering in making that change sustain in those organizations as we all embark on this journey together.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, speaking of change inside organizations, what do you think about the impact that generative AI is going to have on the employee makeup of banks and fintechs?
So, there's always that big scare, Peter. I don't know if you have heard that. And every conversation I go into, oh my God, generative AI, we're going to lose jobs. We're going to have 50%, people being pushed out, whether it's different function or areas. I think to me, it almost feels like human nature. We always try to overhype and overestimate sometimes. Back from the times of Socrates, when I guess, the reading came in, it was thought that, hey, you know what, it'll actually atrophy memory. Or when the newspapers came in, oh my God, we will stop meeting each other and there will not be enough exchange of information. Or when TV came in, oh, we will stop doing intellectual activities. Well, none of that is going to happen. I mean, it's more about, yes, our roles are going to change. Probably tasks will get eliminated, but I think we'll have much newer and different creative ways of solving problems. And that's really where I think as an organization, we are firm believers of what we call as human in the loop. And especially for banking and financial services, this is going to be even more critical, because humans are the one who will bring in that ethical judgment or emotional quotient, or that EQ and intelligence into the entire process, and make this technology more creative, more innovative, and more nuanced, so that we can actually make the experience better for the end clients that we all are serving for. So I am actually very, very excited about the journey that we are on, and I think we will see much better lives for all of us and much better product and solutions for all of us.
Right. Yeah, super interesting. So, when it comes to new technology, oftentimes banks have a wait and see approach. They will be careful for good reason. And then fintechs have come in, particularly when we first sort of made the move to digital banking. Fintechs took the lead there. So do you think that's going to happen again with generative AI? Are banks going to sit back and watch? What are your thoughts?
Look, I think fintechs have always been digital natives, and I think they will probably be much faster in the journey. But I actually strongly believe that banks will not be left behind. We're already seeing actually banks partnering with fintechs a lot more. And I think the whole cloud journey, digitization was a big lesson when fintechs were almost kind of threatening a little bit of the existence, but that didn't really pan out that way. And I think banks learned that, look, better to be closer and faster in giving that experience to the customers. So I'm talking to several banks, large banks, mid-sized regional banks. They are all very, very eager to experiment, create some solutions, some very quick wins. I also know on the flip side that they will always be in the guardrails of what regulators will allow, and rightly so, because I think this is still going to be a very nuanced industry, because it'll always be, hey, how will it impact some of the models that we are building? Are some biases creeping in? Are we making sure that it's ethical? There is data protection. So I think banks will think a lot more about that, and that's probably what will take a little time. And I think there will be far many more partnerships wherever it's linked to customer experience. I think we will see many more of those coming through.
Right. So I just want to go dig into the regulatory piece there, because that's obviously something that banks and fintechs, for that matter, are very top of mind. And this is such a new area that's really being defined kind of in real time, and there's no regulatory framework that exists yet for generative AI. So does that mean, banks are obviously going to be hesitant, but how should we think about regulatory and compliance risk when it comes to generative AI?
Yeah, I think, Peter, actually, I was talking to a bunch of chief data officers, and we were just discussing exactly that. And, one of them was just joking about it, saying, what, it took us almost 9 months to explain to the regulators about what the impact of AI is going to be. So good luck with generative AI, because, rightly so, because this is such a new area, new field, so I understand that responsible AI is going to be big. And I think it's going to be important for all of us as we collectively as partners work with the banks and fintechs, as to really the whole transparency in those models, what the models can do and what they cannot do. Or, what is the IP? Where is the IP sitting? Who controls the data? What are the security requirements? How are they being met? So there's a full robust framework, what we call as responsible AI framework, which has to be put in place. And as Genpact, we are very actively working with a lot of our clients in really, implementing that. But I think that is really critical to ensure that, there is a full robust governance, which is there, and full explainability and traceability for the regulatory environment as well, and to the customers too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I want to go back to sort of the personalization thing that you talked about earlier, because this strikes me as really like a huge opportunity, shall we say? Because I've been banking with a traditional bank for 30 plus years, and they know a lot about me. They have a huge amount of data. and they see, they see kind of everything that goes in and out of my account, and yet the personalization that it's providing today is still, it still wants to know if I want to transfer a balance to a new credit card. I don't carry a balance. And, those are sort of things that I'm just wondering, are we going to, are we going to see a leapfrog in advancement there when it comes to personalization, or how can you maybe color it a little bit better for us?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think certainly, is there an opportunity? Hell yes, absolutely. There's a massive opportunity in personalization. Are we there yet? Probably not. And I think that's really where the journey is right now. And I'm going to backtrack actually all the way into data. You were sharing your example. Likely some of the banks have data sitting on 5 different systems, 5 different platforms. How do you create that data lake, that information, repository about a customer, and create those insights so that if a call comes in, it's almost, almost to a point of predicting what that call is about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So generative AI will enable all that for us. I think that's really the big, fantastic news. When is it going to happen? That's really when, as banks go through the journey of really cleaning up their data, standardizing it, making it available so that some of those insight factories can be created, and personalization onto what kind of products can be offered to you or to anyone who calls in, basis the predictive needs of those customers. So I think the journey is very exciting, Peter, but we're not there yet. I think some of them are. I think there is different. Everyone is in different phase of their life cycle, but for sure, it's really an exciting journey.
Mm-hmm. So, in closing, I want to dig into a really big topic, and that is, AI becoming so advanced that it's indistinguishable from a human. I was actually watching a video this morning that was sent to me of people that I know. One of them was speaking for real, in like it was a human, and the other person, it was an AI generated avatar of that person. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell which they said, which one is the AI generated one. I could not tell. And that was amazing to me. And so I guess the question is, do you see a time when AI is going to get so advanced that it simply replaces the need for humans in much of sort of the financial services arena, or are the issues so complex and people's needs so different that they're always going to want to have a human element in this?
Great question, Peter. And actually, there are several theories out there. People talk about the WINS framework, WINS. I don't know if you heard that. Wherever there are words, images, numbers, and sounds, all that can be replaced by generative AI. Now, can that happen, in certain industries? Maybe. Can it happen in banking and financial services? Maybe a part of that. But I think, as I was talking earlier, look, it's going to be far more nuanced than a simple, hey, can generative AI replace humans? My personal belief is that it's unlikely. Yes, we have to be very, very watchful, careful of the deep fakes and what we see as a wrong use of generative AI, which is also possible. And I think that's really where the whole framework of responsible AI has to play in. Banks will always, stay in the zone of caution, wherein, the regulatory bodies, the oversight bodies will ensure that there is enough explainability on where generative AI is being used. And we firmly believe, as I said earlier, I think with human in the loop, some of these, not all, but some of these issues can definitely be taken care of, because that's really where the ethical judgment and making sure that we are really leveraging the technology in the right way will come in. So that's my personal belief.
Interesting. Well, it's one of the most fascinating areas in all of technology right now. And as I say, it's just we're not even at the top of the first inning. It's really just started, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds, as I'm sure you are. So, Anu, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much. Very excited. And thank you very much for having me here.
Okay. See ya.